Hi everyone, this is Katie Hamilton, Monday evening nutrition talk. And big cheers. Get your glasses of water, lemon water. We are going to be talking about hydration and chronic dehydration. So if you join me live or if you come on in the future, I encourage you to leave questions below so that I can answer them at the end of this talk, or I will visit the following week to see if you have any questions from this talk, and I will answer them. You can always reach me at katielaurahamilton@gmail.com if you have more personal questions that you want to ask about nutrition, wellness, or healing. So I have so much good stuff. I'm really excited for this talk, actually. So how we are going to structure this is, first we're going to talk about why are people chronically dehydrated? So many of us are walking around dehydrated and we don't even know it. So I wanted to talk about and educate you on the aspects of our environment, our lifestyle, and our diet that are contributing to chronic dehydration. And then I want to talk about the implications of being chronically dehydrated and how that will show up in your body, and the impacts that will have on trying to heal, especially if you're dealing with any sort of chronic illness or symptoms or dis-ease in the body. So those words can have quite a stigma attached. It's like, I'm not ill, I'm not chronically ill, I don't have dis-ease. But something as simple as bloating is a sign of dis-ease in the body and misalignment, and the body sending signals to you that it needs support. And it very well could be an underlying theme of dehydration. It could be that simple, okay? So, and then I'm gonna talk to you about how to hydrate. So how do you hydrate? And no, it's not just about drinking tap water, because that's one of them, but a little bit more specific, okay? So the first point I have here is that something that I don't think we really think about anymore, but it's one of the troublemakers that is creating and underlying a lot of illness in humanity is radiation. Okay, so we are still dealing with the fallout of World War II, nuclear explosion, and the nuclear plant disasters in Chernobyl. And so that radiation goes up into the atmosphere, and it is actually still falling down, and we are still inhaling that radiation. And unfortunately, it's also saturated our oceans and our water and our soil, and it's caused some damage, and it's really eliminated zinc from our soil, which is problematic for our immune system because we need zinc to have a strong immune system. So that's one of the reasons, and when we're exposed to radiation from different places as well. So if you've ever had an X-ray, you've had exposure. If you have a cell phone, living in a city, cell towers, these are all giving off certain elements of radiation. It was a hot topic. I remember when cell phones, when I was younger, and there was the flip phone, and there was talk about this cell phone, and you shouldn't have it, near your genitals for fertility. You shouldn't have it on your body. And I remember it being quite a big deal, and it's almost like it's just been forgotten about. It still affects us, and it's one of the reasons we have chronic dehydration, okay? The next one, which has also been forgotten about, still exists in our environment, is DDT. And we are exposed to DDT. I think it was just 50 years ago that it was banned as a really harmful cancer-producing insecticide. People used to walk around and go from door to door, spray it on apples and say, look, it's actually a nutrient. You should be eating this. It's really good for you. And they would just go by parks and they would literally just spray this. And I think there's still some countries that have not banned DDT. That DDT did not go anywhere. It's still in the soil. It is still in our playgrounds, and it is still being recirculated, okay, through the atmosphere. Yeah, it's unfortunate. So that chemical is actually wreaking a lot of havoc in the body, and we'll learn even more why that's a problem. And then we have heavy metals. So heavy metals are in so many things. We're exposed to them. Mercury, I have a mouthful of mercury fillings. I remember when I was young, having mercury put in my teeth. We're also exposed to, if you ever had takeout food or if you use aluminum to cook with, lead paint that is in old homes, copper pipes, pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides, like whatever they're putting on our food to stop the bugs from eating it actually has heavy metals in it. So, and it's also even in tap water, if you're not filtering it. So these are very problematic to our health. So there's these top four that I'm going to be talking about. The next one is pathogens, are the main troublemakers of most of the dis-ease and chronic illness that we are seeing in the population to date. And the fourth aspect of what is dehydrating us and causing a lot of dehydration in our body is pathogens. And so it's a hot topic right now with COVID, but it is nothing new to the body. The body has been exposed to viruses and bacteria, harmful ones, because we have good ones in us, for decades. And it's been about 100 years now since the viral explosion, which is not spoken about, and it's not really known about. I don't think it's not just spoken about because it's hush hush. It's not really that known about, and it is a problem. The viruses 100 years ago were not as problematic because they were not feeding off of so many toxic heavy metals, radiation, and DDT. We just weren't, this planet didn't have as many chemicals as it does now. And so these pathogens that were once benign and harmless or causing very, very little trouble in our body learned how to survive and fuel on the heavy metals, the pesticides that are sprayed on all of our food, that goes into the atmosphere that we inhale, sprayed on parks that we play in. It's very hard to escape this in our environment. And the winds, like our world seems large, it's not really. The winds actually carry all of these chemicals throughout, and it goes into the water system. So this isn't like a fear-based talk, this is education. This is to become more in the know and understanding what is happening and why we're so exposed and why we're having such a rise of chronic illness. And what people call autoimmune disease is not our body attacking itself, it's our body putting up massive defense against these pathogens and heavy metals that are oxidating, creating oxidative stress, damaging cells, and creating a whole slew of symptoms that are called autoimmune. So the viruses like to eat those problematic toxins, okay? And then they poop out something 10 times more toxic than the heavy metal. So for example, Epstein-Barr. There's now over 60 different strains of Epstein-Barr, and it's way more aggressive than it was 100 years ago. Epstein-Barr loves to feed on heavy metal mercury, and when it poops mercury out, it creates something that's a neurotoxin. And that neurotoxin goes in and it starts to damage the central nervous system and the brain. Whereas strep bacteria, there's over, I think, 40 different strains of strep, loves copper, also loves heavy metals and certain foods as well. And when it poops something out, one of the strains will poop out something called a dermatoxin, and that will go and create what we experience as psoriasis, or rashes, or patches of really dry skin, or cystic acne, okay? Everything does have a root cause, and when we know it, we actually can find a healing path out of it versus just putting a label on it, more pharmaceuticals or immunosuppressant drugs that suppress the immune system experience so that for a period of time you think you're getting better. However, these bugs have learned how to even eat those immunosuppressants and drugs and pharmaceuticals we take, and then they get stronger. So long-term, this is not a solution, okay? The solution is gonna come from how we treat our body and how we fuel our body, and also how we hydrate, okay? So the next thing that is dehydrating us is our very own tap water. Chlorinated water, even a little drop of chlorine, is extremely dehydrating. And I think you know this because you've been in a chlorine pool before and you've got out and you've been like, oh, my skin is so dry. Well, if you can imagine that that is the main water source you've been having for your entire life, if it has not been filtered, and that is absolutely dehydrating your body, okay? So again, we're gonna get into the problem solving. I'm just painting a picture of the problem itself, okay? One of my problems is that I think the hairdressers are still closed and I need to cut my hair. Okay, diet high in processed salts. Not a conversation about salt being bad. It's not about salt being bad. The body needs sodium, but the body needs sodium from a specific mineral salt that is found in vegetables, green leafy vegetables, cucumber and celery. Okay, so anything green is gonna have your sodium, the kind of sodium, the specific mineral salt that your body needs. It's a different molecular structure than table salt or even very high quality Himalayan salt. So if we're, adding a lot of salt to our diet, this actually can be something that is quite dehydrating to the body. High protein, high fat diet, okay? So there's a trend, and paleo ketogenic diets filled with animal protein, animal flesh, which is very dehydrating to the body to begin with, and also a lot of cooked foods and nuts and fats. This creates dehydration. You would have to drink and eat so much raw fruit, but that's not allowed, to try to counterbalance what is happening in the bodies of people who are heavy into paleo or keto diet. I will do another talk on this so we can really understand what's happening in the body, and then you can have a better choice. You can make a better choice based on knowledge and information. But yes, so if you're eating a lot of animal fats or animal meat in general, you will be contributing to dehydrating the body. And this isn't a conversation about don't eat meat. This is just understanding what dehydrates the body, okay? Pop, sodas, and caffeinated drinks or coffee. All of those just suck the hydration out of your cell to try to deal with how dehydrating these drinks are. Cooked foods of any kind force the digestive system to suck hydration from other cells to try to dehydrate it. So if we're eating a diet high in cooked foods, we are dehydrating our system. The digestive system is, it requires some of the most amount of water, okay? And it is constantly needing hydration. Speaking of that, I'll have a sip. And so one of the ways you can overcome this that I do is that, so if I'm gonna have my nice cooked piece of collipore trout, then I'm gonna have that on a bed of fresh greens, which is actually gonna give me really quality hydration to help with the digestive power of that meal. So you can always add some raw food to a cooked meal and create a sort of 50-50 blend of cooked food to raw food. So for instance, I steamed some potatoes last night, and then I chopped a lot of like 1.5 heads of cilantro and added that to it. And so that was the raw piece to balance the cooked potatoes. Potatoes are absolutely incredible for us. So we're gonna need to eat cooked foods. It's not about don't eat cooked foods. And especially in the winter, we run into a situation where we just don't crave as much raw food. But it's still really important to be thinking about bringing in that raw food, fruits and vegetables, to balance in the cooked food. And that's gonna keep you hydrated. Okay, and the 10th, I love when you interact with me. Good to know, right? Little tips and hacks on how to stay healthy. I mean, that's one of my main purposes here, is to try to figure out how do we live a vibrant life and support this body. I've been on a quest and search for the last 20 years, and I'm sharing with you the best of my knowledge. So the 10th reason, and this was really fascinating when I found this out, is that dehydration, believe it or not, is actually passed down from generation to generation. And no, it's not through your genes, it's through your cells. Okay, so you can actually come into this world dehydrated because of the decisions that your grandparents made and because of the level of hydration or lack of that they were experiencing, okay? So, what are the consequences of chronic dehydration? This is really important to know, because one thing in my practice is that, you know, when I say like, okay, drink enough water and how much water are you drinking? Like when I'm looking at someone's food journal, I'm not just looking at how much water, I'm looking at the quality of the water, and I'm also looking at how much raw food one eats. And I have to say, over the last 12 years of looking at food journals, there is a severe lack of raw food going into humans' diets. And I get it. It's a wild, wild west out there with information. It's so confusing. And a lot of the good tasting foods are just covered in salt and cooked and generally very dehydrating to the body. Okay. And we've been actually swayed against eating the very foods that are hydrating and healing to the body. Okay. So we're up against a lot in this world, and even the information that is really leading people astray. And when I start coaching them and they start following the food plan that I support them with, it is unbelievable. I'm always amazed at what happens even within the first week. The symptoms that start to heal and go away, and the level of vitality that people start to feel, that they're like, I didn't know I could feel this good. I just thought that how I felt was normal. That's often said. So the consequences of dehydration, there's a lot. I'm going to cover a few. And it's not something to take lightly. It's actually at the root of all disease. If we're dealing with any symptom or disease in the body, we are absolutely dealing with some level of dehydration, and it probably has been chronic. Chronic means it's not acute. It's not just like this day. It's not today you're just dehydrated, or this week. It's been going on for weeks, months, and years, maybe your entire life, and you don't even realize it. So the first consequence is thick, toxic blood. And, you know, I don't hear many people talk about this either. Thick, toxic blood, it's a thing, and it happens. And what happens when our blood becomes thick because we are dehydrated? Think about a river with not enough water running through it, the buildup of sediment, the buildup of toxins, all those toxins that I just mentioned at the beginning of the talk, they no longer can effectively be detoxified from your body. And in fact, what happens is your liver is the place that is purifying your blood. And when the liver becomes unwell because of thick toxic blood, that's one of the results, is that it sends blood. The next place it sends blood is to your heart. And your heart is now trying to think of a straw and think of trying to sip a really thick smoothie up through the straw. Doesn't it take a lot of effort? Yes, it does. It takes a lot of effort. Well, that's what happens when the liver is actually pumping up, or the heart is trying to suck up thick toxic blood from your liver because of this dehydration. Now what happens? We set the heart up for disease. We set the heart up for heart attacks. We set the heart up for high blood pressure. We also experience high cholesterol. Okay. And so over time, that heart has to pump harder and harder and harder to try to get that blood up. And what's fascinating is that you can have someone who is really healthy looking, that exercises every day, and can still have thick, toxic blood. And that is the person, when you hear of someone, and I remember this in my life being like, how is this possible? Someone who's so healthy looking and takes care of their body through so much exercise, but didn't realize they're chronically dehydrated, have not been eating enough raw fruits and vegetables, and they drop dead of a heart attack playing a tennis match. Over a period of time, the heart just wears out. And this can be one of the causes that contributes to really sudden stroke or heart attack or death from these things because of thick toxic blood. That's how serious and important staying hydrated is. The other thing, that when we have thick blood, it actually increases the amount of pathogens in our body. Why? Because we're not able to detoxify as effectively, right? The liver, think about a river. The river doesn't have enough water moving through it, purifying it, flushing it out. And so toxins actually just recirculate. And guess what pathogens live on? The toxins. So now the pathogens love living in thick toxic blood because that's where it gets its fuel from. The other challenge is that when you have thick toxic blood, your oxygen levels go down. And when your oxygen levels go down, that's the way pathogens like to live, is without a lot of oxygen in the dark, out of the light, and eating these toxins that are in the body, okay? And unfortunately, that then leads to a whole bunch of other symptoms, which I'm going to get into later in another talk. But essentially what I started the talk with saying was that autoimmune symptoms are viruses and pathogens causing damage. They are at the root of rheumatoid arthritis, MS, fibromyalgia, brain fog, chronic fatigue. They are causing so many symptoms in the body that are going misdiagnosed. They're labeled, but no one's getting the explanation of the why. And they're either told your body is turned against you, which is so depressing to hear from a doctor, or they're told try this drug, or they're told like deal with it and eat more eggs and protein. All of these things are misleading people right off the path of healing. And it's so unfortunate. I have had so many clients come to me totally trust broken. They've gone to health professional after health professional, doctor after doctor, misled, no answers, not feeling better. And by the time they come to me, they're just exhausted. And then I have to build their trust to say, it's not just another thing. It's not just another theory. There is a reason that you're feeling this way. And if you've never been told the root cause, that's why you've never been able to heal properly. And there is a way to heal. I actually will share my own story one Monday of how I healed myself from chronic illness through understanding. That's why I know all of this stuff, because I've done a lot of research. But yeah, through understanding the root cause and then honoring the healing path, okay? So these pathogens, they love thick toxic blood, and another really good reason to stay hydrated. So the other impact that chronic dehydration has is that it decreases detoxification, which is something I just touched upon. So your ability to detoxify and purify your blood, your liver work at its optimal rate is decreased, okay? And that leads to all of these health symptoms. Remember, all of these health symptoms are just a messenger to you saying there is something wrong, I need help. It's not your body turning against you, ever. Your body is working tirelessly, 24 hours a day. Harder than we could ever work, 5 jobs, raising kids, the body is working harder, it really is. There are so many things happening in the body to try to keep you healthy and alive. It just needs the support and the right information. Something else that's really interesting, if you deal with any anxiety or depression or panic or neurological disorders, dehydration will absolutely amplify those. So it's really important to stay hydrated, especially with lemon water. And again, at the end, I'm going to talk about how to stay hydrated. Gallstones, if you suffer from chronic dehydration, sediments start to build in the gallbladder and start to create gallstones, which decreases the storage capacity for bile. I think it was last Monday I talked about digestion and how to power up digestion. Super great talk. I really recommend watching it. Your bile is key to be able to break down your fats. You want bile for good digestion. If you don't have strong digestion, then that is another sort of domino effect for all of our illness and health issues, okay? So staying hydrated will help increase our digestive power, is essentially what I'm saying there. So those are, let me just make sure I have all of them. Yeah, so the other one is weight gain. So when we are chronically dehydrated, the body holds on to more toxins. We have more pathogens, the liver is weakened, then what happens? Mystery weight gain. I'm exercising, I'm eating healthy, and I keep putting weight on. Oh, I'm going through menopause, that's just normal. No, it's not. It's not. It's another sign that something is not working in the body and we need to heal it at the root, okay? You do not, it is not synonymous. Menopause is not synonymous with weight gain, okay? It's just not true. And that this is also why someone who exercises a lot can keep putting weight on. Meanwhile, someone who doesn't exercise but has a really strong liver and is perfectly hydrated, doesn't exercise a lot, doesn't put weight on. And what we're dealing with is accumulation of different sort of breakdowns in the system. Digestive power weakens, liver weakens, blood starts to be toxic and thick, and then the body starts to become too toxic. Well, where does it store toxins? Again, your body's trying to keep you alive. It moves the toxins away from vital organs and it stores it in fat tissue. Your fat tissue is storing your toxins. So doing a nutrition cleanse or reset, which I am going to be offering soon to eMbody, because it is a huge way to kickstart so much of what I'm talking about, is following this specific whole food nutrition plan, or nutrition reset, I like to call it. And really it is about finding sustainable ways to support your body to become super, super healthy. And weight gain is one of the byproducts of going on this nutrition cleanse, because your body starts to, all the systems that start to purify and detoxify your body start to become healthier. And then what happens? The body can move through those yesterday's toxins that's stored in your fat, and the weight starts to fall off. It is not about your metabolism. It is not about calories in, calories out. Weight gain, especially around the midsection, and the weight gain that is so stubborn, you cannot starve yourself to lose this weight because the toxins are still in you. In fact, starving yourself will weaken your detoxification systems, right? So it's not about eating less and working out more. That actually can stress the body too much. It's about the balance and understanding the right amount of nutrients, the right food that you need to eat, the right amount of exercise, and getting that balance in harmony, okay? So now that we understand the impact, let's talk about how to overcome chronic dehydration. So I definitely realized I was chronically dehydrated. I realized that I totally, even my own industry just led me astray. Eat more meat, eat more eggs, cut out fruit, it's too high in sugar. Listen to my first talk 2 weeks ago on critical clean carbohydrates. Sugar is not a bad word, especially when we're talking about fruit sugar, okay? Processed sugar is a different entity. I'm talking about fruit sugar. So your body runs on glucose. It needs fruit. Fruit is gold. That glucose is bound to hydration, to water molecules, that then delivers the minerals, the vitamins, the phytonutrients, the antibacterials, the antivirals into the cell, okay? Water from fruit is the most structured, potent, living, alive water that you can put in your body. There's no streams on this planet, they're not somewhat contaminated, right? There's no amount of we can't go to a stream to drink living structured water that has been purified naturally by the movement of it through a stream. And so we drink tap water, or we have access to raw fruits and vegetables, right? And so our fruit is one of the main sources of hydrating the body. When I started to increase my fruit from a piece or two a day to pretty much, I would say 10 times that amount now. I eat so much fruit, and it has an anti-aging effect. It has helped me heal from chronic illness, and it's absolutely hydrated my body. My body tells me when I need it, and it's the most hydrating food on the planet for sure. So your fruit, you're gonna increase your fruit uptake if you wanna stay hydrated. The next one is your vegetables like cucumber juice. This is something that I ask my body. I'm really in tune with my body. This is something that I help my clients get to the point where they can ask their body for what it needs, and they have a direct relationship with their body, and their body will say what they need. We've been sort of beaten out of our connection to our intuitive eater. But it's really important to reconnect to our intuitive eater, because our body knows exactly what we need, and it knows what nutrients it's depleted in and how to get it up and what foods to go to. So cucumber juice, 2 cups of cucumber juice once a day. That's going to start to increase your hydration. It's going to start to purify the toxic, thick blood. It's going to support all your systems, and it's going to bring your liver back to life. cucumber juice, okay? 2 cups. Filtered water. Unfortunately, our water is contaminated with heavy metals and chlorine. Chlorine is extremely dehydrating. So I personally use a B.Kin filter. I can leave a link when I'm done the talk below and of where to buy a B.Kin filter from. It's amazing. It's so amazing. I took it camping, took it to Lake Huron, found this incredible spot on the most western point of Manitoulin Island, absolutely stunning sunset. I felt like I was on heaven on earth. And I would go down with my big B.Kin filter, scoop up Lake Huron water and filter it, and I was perfectly fine. So this filter is just incredible. And however, it doesn't bring water back to life. So then I got a structured water system, which is literally just something this big. It spiralizes the water, puts it in a vortex, and it actually brings the molecular structure back to life. And it's incredible. My body is drinking so much more water now because I have living water and it knows the difference. Okay. Coconut water is another way you can hydrate yourself, drinking coconut water every day, adding it to your smoothies if you want. Now, even pasteurized, because I was worried. I was like, yeah, when I was living in Hawaii or Costa Rica, I was drinking coconut water right from the coconut, right? And I was like, okay, there's just no way that it can be great if it's been pasteurized and packaged and sitting on the shelf for, I don't know, weeks or months, right? It still is. It still is hydrating for the body. So drinking the pasteurized store-bought coconut milk or coconut water is still hydrating for the body, okay? And it's also gonna deliver your body great electrolytes. So I would recommend drinking coconut water during a workout or before a workout. You're actually gonna get more energy from it because you need those electrolytes to stimulate the muscles. All right. Eating more fresh, raw vegetables. That is a really amazing way to balance a cooked meal, as I spoke about at the beginning. So 50% raw, 50% cooked. You could start to think that way. I like to just think I'm gonna have a salad a day. So I like to have a big salad a day. I haven't been lately because it was cold, but now that it's summer, I start to bring in more of my big salads. I usually steam my greens, but I am hydrating in many other ways. So think about having a salad a day or having a salad with your cooked meal, okay? And if you are drinking any type of water that's filtered or not filtered, I highly recommend adding lemon. Lemon is high in vitamin C, which is just mandatory for the body, especially if you're under stress. High in minerals, and it is, again, purifying, detoxifying, alkalizing, and adding fresh squeezed lemon or lime to your water is really, really, really hydrating for the body, and it's gonna help to pull the water into the cells, okay? So, thank you for being with me live. I see there's a few of you here listening, and thank you in the future for tuning in. Do you have any questions or comments on this talk? Anything else that interests you? And if not, I'm going to say, have a wonderful Monday evening and cheers. Cheers with some lemon water. Oh, by the way, I love drinking out of fancier cups. It makes me drink more water. So do whatever makes you drink more water. Another tip that I will give clients is that if they are at their desk a lot, is to fill up their water bottle, have it beside their computer so that it's just in their face, in their vision, in their reminder to drink more water, okay? All right, have a wonderful evening and I will see you next Monday.